Am I the antagonist for asking my husband to stay with his family while he's unemployed? My husband, 32, and I, 30, have been married for just over a year now, and things couldn't be rockier. I have a good job and make a decent amount of money, whereas my husband made not as much as me. Due to this, and the fact he was still living with his parents when we got married, we decided he would move in with me and I would continue to pay the rent and bills as long as he put money toward other things we may need as a couple. My name is the only one on the lease. However, once we got married, he started to cut down on his work hours without saying anything first. He gave the explanation that I made plenty of money for the both of us, so he could just work part-time and do the work around the house while I was the main breadwinner. I was fine with this, a little upset that he had just assumed this would be okay, but I didn't say anything as this felt fair. He did do some work around the house initially, but spent the majority of his time going out to the bar, playing video games, etc. To the point where I was the one both working and doing the cooking, cleaning, and other household chores. My husband told me he was laid off 2 months ago for reasons out of his control. I assumed in this time that he would begin job hunting, and I began to pay for everything. While I do earn a decent amount of money, it's not to the point where I can pay for rent, bills, groceries, insurance, contribute to emergency savings, and finance the lifestyle my husband had started indulging in. I began paying for his nights out, subbing him money for trips to look for work, etc. All while I was under the assumption he would be searching for a new job. At least to finance his hobbies. About a week ago, I asked him how the job hunt was going, and he told me that he didn't feel like it was worth it. He said to me that he was comfortable with what we had now, and I wasn't happy, to say the least. I confronted him about how I was doing everything to finance and take care of our household while he sat around and played video games. I was being an ass here, I'll admit, and during this argument he let slip that he had actually quit and never looked for another job. I was furious that he had lied to me and told him I didn't want him in my home right now. Fast forward to now. My in-laws are understanding to an extent, but are calling me an asshole for not wanting him to come back home until he gets a job. I have seen my husband in this time, but never in our home, always out somewhere. I no longer pay for everything, and his attitude toward me is making me question our entire relationship. He's calling me an asshole for doing this to him, and I'm beginning to think he's right. Am I an asshole? NTA. Don't cave. Making me question our entire relationship. Atta girl. Keep questioning. NTA. And to everyone who's saying divorce isn't the answer here, I strongly disagree. He lied to you about quitting in order to manipulate you into financing him fully. Any adult knows you don't make decisions like that without at least consulting your spouse. It'd be one thing if he quit and then told you right away. But he purposefully constructed a lie to guide you to acceptance of his desire to not work. He knew he should have discussed it with you, but chose manipulation instead. That is a dangerous foundation for a marriage. What else will he lie about to get his way? Being passively controlling is still a removal of your free will. Leave. He's calling me an asshole for doing this to him, okay, but what does he call what he's doing to you? Todd. Not only is he a leech, but his parents know it too. Why do you think they're so desperate to give him back? I would start divorce proceedings. I have a feeling your income is going to jump. Get a lawyer and protect your assets now. Document everything. Am I the antagonist for canceling my wedding even though it's tomorrow? This morning I woke up to a bunch of texts from my sister who lives 14 hours away. She's been pregnant for a little less than 5 months. She was supposed to be the maid of honor at my wedding, but she delivered the news that the doctor told her she had a miscarriage. I can only imagine the grief my sister is going through. She can't attend my wedding, and even though everything is already booked, and we had some guests flying in for the wedding, I just can't have it without her. I thought my fiancé would understand, but instead, he got extremely upset. We've been planning this date for a while now because it's his mother's birthday and very special to him. But it would make my sister devastated if I had it without her, since I know she was looking forward to it. She said she just wasn't ready to celebrate anything at the moment, and as her sister, she feels like it's my responsibility to comfort her. It's early in the morning where I live, and we're prepared for the wedding tomorrow, but I can't stomach having my special day without my sister. I told my fiancée, and after I finish writing this I'm going to start packing. I need to be with my sister right now. Furthermore, I know everything has already been planned out, and I'm ruining a lot by doing this, but I have to put family first. My fiancée is definitely mad and called me an a-hole because of it. So I was wondering, am I the antagonist for canceling my wedding last minute to be with my grieving sister? And hashtag X200B, edit, after one tough talk with my fiancée, we're not canceling the wedding. We're going to have it despite the loss of my niece and record it to send to my sister when the time comes. We made up for the most part and decided we aren't going to have a maid of honor at our wedding. Thank you guys. Would have made a stupid decision without 99 people calling me an asshole. Info: do you plan on rescheduling the wedding around your sister? How is your sister intending to be at your wedding when she's not with you yet? Edited to add, I just realized she's your maid of honor and is 14 hours away the day before your wedding. Not sure if I'm buying this. You are wasting tons of money, tons of other people's money and their time for one person. If you're willing to let everyone else around you crash and burn for your sister, then that's your choice, but that would be a deal breaker for me if I was your fiancé. There would be no rescheduled wedding. Do you even care about your wedding? It's entirely in your right to prioritize your sister, but don't expect others to stick around, especially not your fiancé. He deserves someone who puts him first on his wedding day. YTA. This story doesn't really add up to me. It's the day before your wedding and your maid of honor was still 14 hours away? When was she supposed to fly in for the wedding? It just seems like the timeline here makes the story unbelievable. I would expect guests to fly in the day before. But the wedding party would need to be in town earlier for rehearsal, etc. It just sounds unbelievable to me. I have to put my family first. I guess since you're not married yet, your fiancé doesn't count as family? That's quite a blow. You're hurting for your sister, and that's understandable. But if you expect to ever marry your fiancé, this is a decision you both needed to make together. You say, I thought my fiancé would understand. What you really mean is that you thought your fiancé would agree with you, and he doesn't. He understands now that he and his feelings don't come first for you. I hope you can fix this before it's too late. Am I the antagonist for kicking my husband out the delivery room? I was in labor for 26 hours and was in a lot of pain as I didn't take an epidural. My husband was constantly on the phone, either playing games or talking with his brothers, being really loud. When I asked him to please hang up, he'd hang up the phone and then, like 10 minutes later, call them back. He really wanted to talk to them because his friends went on a boys' trip without him because I asked to stay back so he could be here when I went into labor. They were calling to tell him about how their trip was going. He apologizes to them, blaming it on me being a nag. I was really annoyed and told him if he wanted to talk to his friend, he could do that elsewhere, so I can be in pain and peace. He was like, all right, fine, baby, I'll just call them back later. So I had about 20 minutes of peace until his mom FaceTimed him, where he proceeded to put me in the video call. His mom makes a comment about how she remembers when she was in labor with him and that she still did herself up. She even claimed she looked so good the doctor even was flirting with her. I was holding back everything inside me to not say something, as I didn't want to disrespect my mother-in-law, but at the same time she sometimes just makes the stupidest comments at the worst times, and at this moment I could not stand talking to her. A nurse ends up coming in and could tell I was upset and asks me if everything was all right, and I tell her I just really want to be alone. She ends up kicking out my husband, and in turn he ends up missing the birth of our firstborn daughter because he left the hospital because he was pissed off that I got the nurse to kick him out the room. He refused to come see his daughter afterwards because he was angry at me for kicking him out. My mother-in-law, who did visit me in the hospital, wouldn't stop talking about how I'm such a bad wife for removing my husband from the room. When I got home, he kept on bringing up how I ruined a moment of bonding with his daughter and how he could never forgive me for that. Am I the asshole for kicking my husband out the delivery room because he was making phone calls? NTA's the nurse kicked him out of the room. He's the one that chose to leave the hospital altogether. Tell him you missed the birth of your daughter because you threw a temper tantrum and left the hospital. If you had been focused on me and the baby instead of playing games and having loud phone calls with your friends, I never would have asked you to leave the room. You're mad that you missed this moment? Well, I am mad that when your daughter and I needed you most, you prioritized chatting with your friends and complaining about what a nag I am. I am mad that when I was in an incredibly vulnerable position, you let your mom insult me. I am mad that you are blaming me for something that was the consequences of your own selfish actions. I am mad that you are still making this situation about yourself and playing the victim instead of celebrating that I gave birth to our daughter. NTA, and it truly upsets me to read these stories on Reddit. I always wonder if you are really going to spend the rest of your life with such an asshole. NTA, that's a whole lot of red flags from your husband. 1. Had to be told not to leave on a boys' holiday when his wife would likely be giving birth to his child. 2. Ignored his laboring wife to chat with his friends on said trip. 3. Called them back after being told to hang up. 4. Answered a video chat from someone you didn't want in the room. 5. Allowed that person to be disrespectful towards you. 6. Went off in a sulk instead of visiting you and his child as soon as he was allowed back. And if he has a problem with the situation, you could ask him what he was feeling the last time he had a new person escaping from his vagina so you can compare notes and come up with a compromise. You set boundaries and told him what you needed. You shouldn't have had asked him to stay home from the boys' trip. He should have recognized there were more important things and made the decision on his own. To dismiss you and your needs is terrible. I wouldn't even be worried about whether he showed up. His mom is an asshole for making it about her instead of checking on you and making sure you felt supported, especially having been through childbirth herself. And his friends are assholes for continuing to entertain phone calls with him instead of saying, "Hey guy, don't you think there are more important things to do right now?" Am I the antagonist for kicking my MOH out of my wedding party because she was being a buzzkill? My 27 female best friend Kathy, 26 female, is a professional wedding planner and has helped host hundreds of weddings. We've basically grown up together, and having a professional also help me with a wedding free of cost was very ideal. I made sure to shower her with gifts to repay her for the help she offered throughout that journey. Now the wedding is in a month, and in 2 weeks it's my bachelorette weekend. Kathy notified me and the other girls of all she had arranged and which errands she booked, but she said she didn't want to participate, which came as a shock to me because how are you going to plan everything but not participate? The girls told me she had a very valid reason, but it was not their story to tell, so I should ask her directly. I asked her, and she replied, "Look, you've made some requests for your bachelorette party, and I respect everything you want to do, but there are some things there that are off limits for me, and some of the stuff, such as the strippers I've booked for you, and some other activities are crossing boundaries regarding me and my own fiancé's relationship. So I made sure to arrange everything perfectly just how you and the girls wanted it to be, but sadly it's not something I want to be involved in. I hope you have the greatest fun." I was truly heartbroken and tried to suck it up, but as the days went by, instead of feeling more at ease with that thought, I got more upset. I tried to talk to her about it to change her mind, but she wasn't having it. She later also said that just to warn me that she won't drink any alcohol to the wedding because she doesn't want to get sick because of it, since she's very lightheaded. I got very disappointed, and at that moment I straight up told her I don't want her as a MOH if all she's going to do is be a buzzkill about everything regarding my wedding and how she can attend as a simple guest. She got very upset and thought it was unfair of me excluding her for these reasons. The rest of my bridesmaids now also believe that I took it too far, and how her skipping the trip for personal or not drink alcohol is not something that would ruin my wedding, and I'm just overreacting. Am I the antagonist? YTA. She did a fantastic job planning everything to you the way you wanted, even though she wouldn't get to enjoy it. She was in no way judgmental of what you wanted, just politely bowed out because it was beyond her boundaries. But you've decided the main criteria for being your friend is enjoying strippers and getting drunk. So good luck with the rest of your adult life and marriage. I'm sure that's all going to work out great. YTA, you got the equivalent of hundreds, if not 1,000s, in free skilled labor, and because she has some boundaries and doesn't want a night out with strippers or get wasted at your wedding, you were heartbroken? Oh, do get over yourself. I am wondering how long it takes for this post to be cross-posted on our /Bridezillas. Edit, FYI, it took 17 minutes for this post to be cross-posted. You want her free labor and professional skills, but you don't want to respect her boundaries. It sounds like she did the best thing possible and arranged for you to have everything you want. By punishing her for enforcing well-thought-out boundaries, you are essentially saying that you don't respect her relationship or her well-being. I hope she has better friends than you. Am I the antagonist for paying first-class airfare for my nanny and not my son? Me, F, and my husband, M, had our first child, Matt, 18 male, when we were just 17 years old. We weren't in a very good financial situation at first, and it only got better when Matt was 9. Currently, we both work well-paying jobs, buy a spacious home, and have our luxuries. We had 2 more children, 8 male and 5 female. As we cannot stay at home all the time, we hired a nanny, May, 45 female, to take care of the little ones. Matt had a complicated personality change at age 11. We put him in private school, and maybe the contact with other teenagers brought out a selfish and elitist side of him. We tried our best to try to improve it, but with the onset of adolescence and stubbornness, it just seemed to get worse. It got better when my husband and I decided that at age 16, he would work part-time so he could start taking financial responsibility, and that seemed to give him a reality check as we cut our support on his perks. This year, after the worst period of the pandemic, my husband and I decided to go on an international trip, and instead of giving May a vacation at home, we decided that we would take her, not going to work, and pay for everything. I don't live in the U.S. Matt, on a random day, overheard me talking to my husband that I was planning to pay for a first-class seat for May and her son for her to enjoy like we did. He asked why we should do this. We were already paying for everything. Let her go economy class if she can't afford first class. I was shocked. I said that it was mean to say this and that she was an important person for our family who gives up having time for her own child to take care of mine. It's the least I can do. He still stood his ground, so I said if he sees it that way, I said I'd buy him an economy seat and he'd have to turn around to pay for an upgrade for him to see how privileged he is to have parents who can pay. He nodded, thinking it was a joke even though I said it wasn't. As the months went by and I warned him that his ticket was economic and he didn't believe it. On the day of the trip, like a shocked Pikachu, he was startled when he realized I told the truth. He threw a tantrum in the middle of the airport, saying that 10 hours of travel would be very uncomfortable. I just replied, "You had 6 months to gather, you've been warned." The flight was okay, but Matt was outraged the entire trip, saying it was almost torture and that we had gone too far. My husband agrees with me, but my parents said I went too far doing this. Am I the antagonist? NTA, and I'm sorry you have such an entitled son. Ask him why almost torture would be fine for the nanny but not for him. NTA. He fucked around and found out. Doesn't sound like those elitist attitudes really left, just simmered for a while. My parents said I went too far doing this. Yes, you absolutely tortured him by making him sit with the peasants. How awful. The flight was okay, but Matt was outraged the entire trip, saying it was almost torture and that we had gone too far. NTA, he is entitled and needs this reality check. However, if he is this entitled, someone has set the stage for this to happen. You and your husband were in agreement and Matt sounds like he was due for a reality check. It's not like you surprised him, you were upfront about it and he chose not to believe you. It's great that you thought of May and did something nice for her. Am I the antagonist for publicly calling my sister-in-law shallow and insecure because she photoshops pictures of her kids? I am not close with my brother Matt. Our parents heavily favored him growing up, which caused him to be a selfish adult now. Matt does not talk to us unless he needs something. His wife Amber is even worse. I have done my best to be civil with Amber, but she is a nasty person. The first thing she did when we met was insult my then 2-year-old daughter's hair. Amber behaves this way to every member of the family. The only reason the family speaks to Matt or Amber at all anymore is because we don't want to deprive the kids of a relationship with their cousins, as they all love each other. We keep things superficial because they know I leave with my daughter if Matt or Amber says something rude. My friend texted me asking, "Isn't this your sister-in-law?" and sent me a link to a beautiful child contest on Facebook. Amber's 4-year-old daughter Mia was the winner. Amber photoshopped the picture so much that it barely resembled her daughter. Amber had made Mia's brown eyes blue. She also made her chestnut hair blonde. Amber resculpted Mia's face. She looked like another kid. I looked on Amber's social media and saw she did this with all her photos of her kids, including her 8-month-old son, Jacob. Jacob is a cute baby. He has dark eyes, hair, and tan skin like Matt. Amber photoshopped Jacob's eyes a bluish green. She made his skin lighter and his hair auburn. Matt had the same edited photos posted on his social media, so he clearly had no problem with it. I was disgusted that they felt the need to Photoshop pictures of their toddler and baby. The grandparents insisted on taking everyone shopping at the mall for new clothes. After shopping, we got lunch together while the kids went to play on the mini rides and arcade games. I took a picture of the kids and Matt and Amber asked me to send it to them. Amber was examining the picture and made comments that my daughter Savannah's eyebrows were too bushy and there was a threading place near my house that I should take her to shape her eyebrows better. In the same sentence, she commented about Savannah's cheeks having too much baby fat and I should consider a children's workout class for her. I was furious with Amber, because who the hell does she think she is to insult a 10-year-old's appearance? I told her that Savannah is perfect the way she is and who the hell is she to comment otherwise. Amber got defensive and said how she's just trying to offer helpful criticism because Savannah will have trouble finding a boyfriend if she doesn't learn to maintain herself. I said Savannah will find someone who loves her and not her looks, instead of being so shallow and insecure that she photoshops her kids' pictures online. Amber and Matt looked extremely angry/embarrassed. I told Savannah it was time to go and we left. People are saying I should have left immediately instead of causing drama and responding to Amber how I did, but nobody insults my child and gets away with it. Am I the antagonist? NTA. People like this are disgusting. Amber shouldn't be a mother. I see years of therapy in her children's future. Amber got defensive and said how she's just trying to offer helpful criticism because Savannah will have trouble finding a boyfriend if she doesn't learn to maintain herself. The child is 10 years old. 10 years old. Her biggest concern should be riding her bike and playing with her friends, not maintenance. Amber isn't right in the head. NTA. NTA. Photoshopping your children is literally Kardashian-level crazy. Not only is it a vapid shallow thing to do, but imagine those poor children's self-esteem when they eventually find photos of themselves that mommy photoshopped. Amber was absolutely out of line making comments about your minor child's appearance. Based on what you've said here, Amber sounds like an adult who didn't emotionally mature past her teenage years. She clearly holds all of her value in how she and those around her look, and lacks so much self-esteem that she needs to knock children down a peg to make herself feel better. It's quite sad and pitiful, really. All around disgusting behavior by Amber. Your sister-in-law sounds like a nightmare and quite frankly a raving lunatic. She is eventually going to give her kids so many complexes they're going to be completed messed up humans if she doesn't come to her senses.